And the year of 1965 now, as about 9 years later, 8 years later, whatever, and I call this a night vision. Now, it could not have been a night vision. It could have been a trance, because I'm going to tell you it's different than any of the others I've ever experienced. And I title my night visions or things like this with a title because I have to remember and relate to them. And we lived in a farmhouse. We had no street lights. We didn't have no yard light burning. We didn't burn a light in the house. When we went to bed and went to sleep, it was dark if the moon wasn't shining. I've had at times at night, I'd hold my hand right up in front of my face and I couldn't even see my hand. That's how dark it was. Well, this event started when I was on my back and my eyes just popped open and I'm looking at the ceiling. I didn't waddle around, roll around, whatever you do when a lot of times you're waking up. It's just my eyes just popped open. And I noticed a glow to my left. And I looked and turned my head, and standing beside my bed was Jesus of Nazareth with the white robe on, glistening white. And there was another young man standing to his side, about shoulder height, with a GI haircut. Now, the one I call Jesus of Nazareth, his hair was close to his shoulder. It's not like ours is cut now. And but he had the arms outstretched. Both of them were wearing white robes, glistening white. And he was speaking to me. And I remember trying to lean forward to get closer to hear what was being said. When I did, they both just faded out. And as if in a trance, I just laid back down, looked up the ceiling, closed my eyes. That's what I remembered the next day. Now, my mom said my uncle had a similar event happen to him like that. I don't know the details of that, but in the same week. But I'll relate some information on this right here, possibility. And by the way, the words that were spoken to me were sealed. That's the only best way I can put it to you right now until later. They were sealed. And but one of the things that happened at that time was that young man standing beside her with a GI haircut, had a white robe on. Now, I'm not going into details, not going to name his full name or nothing like that, but his first name was Billy. And he'd done some wrong, and he got captured by the British in the Bahama Islands, and he had an execution date of May the, I'm going to say 9th, 1961 is the day he was executed. And but he was there in that prison for a year, maybe more. He wrote letters to Mama. He said he changed. He wrote poems about Jesus Christ. He wrote others to other kinfolks the same. He said he had changed. Now, Mama talked to him and said, get yourself baptized in the name of Jesus Christ. Now, what events took place during that course of the year? I said I was a kid back in 61 when that was going on. And but from 61 to this year of 65 that we're talking about, it's about 4 years. During that time, my mama talked a lot about him because it really hurt her, because that was one of her favorite nephews. And I guess favorite, at least that was one of her nephews she really was concerned about. And that kind of bothered her of him being executed, but she was glad he wrote the letters and went through the sand, confessing that he'd made a change and so forth. And so it's a wild guess more than anything if that was him that I saw with the Lord there at that time. It might have been, because I said my uncle had a similar thing happen to him during that same week. And so it might have been a test, because she was concerned. She was praying about him, and she was concerned about him and all that. And it might have been more or less to relieve her mind about that. But anyway, that was an event in my life. Now, I'm not born again at age 12-year-old. I don't have the Holy Ghost. I'm just a kid. But as time moves on, as we get to this last scene,